Thank you, Unity Band. So I'm going to start my talk down here because I want to be close and personal with you for a minute. Then I go up there. I want to tell you something about why we might have Rocktober. Like you think, well, why would a Unity Church celebrate Rocktober? This is our third year. Yeah, I'm excited about that. And it started out as a fun idea. I think, well, let's have Rocktober. And of course, the musicians really like it. But how is Rocktober really a celebration in a Unity Church? And let me tell you, there's no better place to have a celebration than in a Unity Church. And in a Unity Church, we celebrate God in everything, everywhere, all the time. And of course, we celebrate God in all of us baby boomers who our formative years was this music. Deb mentioned to me that she heard that song, and I'm not even going to tell you where it sent her. It sent her somewhere in junior sky to an experience that you can ask her about. You know how that is, how music does that for us? And when Chris sings the second song, I'll be bawling, because that just it sends me to when I was a freshman in high school, and I had one record album, and you know how you have that ennui when you're, 14, and so I play that record album over and over again, feel my feelings, and I believe it's a very metaphysical song, but it sends me right back to when I was 14. So it's the power of music, and it's the power of celebrating, and it's the power of celebrating everything, all of it. When you look out at a picture, a perfect landscape, and you see everything, and it looks beautiful, and then when you get up close, and, well, maybe there's some horse droppings or something. But it's still okay. You need the horse droppings. One last picture about, everything. Aren't we blessed that we live in an age where we actually get to see photographs of the Earth from space? We can see our beautiful planet from far away, and doesn't it look lovely with that distance? So we want to remember to keep that distance as far as not detachment, but more like getting the big picture. Like when we step really far back, we see everything, and it's beautiful and lovely. So I don't know why I just felt the urge to say that down there, but I did. Okay, now I have a whole bunch of exciting things to say. First of all, I wanted to say that the candles have given me a little bit of a thing. First of all, I thought, oh, they're burning out, and then I thought, what's going on? And then I remembered, I'm going to show the magic behind the show. These have little candles that we push up and we burn, and so if you just look, I'm just thinking light the candles, and I forget to look underneath for what's in there. Well, I just thought, well, if this is going to happen, I'm going to make a little talk, at least a 1 second talk about it. How there's two interesting points to me. One is that all those candles that started out the same size, and they all got lit at the same time. And there's one candle left. So that's interesting that we all burn at different rates, don't we? We burn in a different way, and we burn with different brightness, but we all burn. We all have our light. And then the other thing is just to remember to fuel up. Remember, if you're going to light your candle, make sure there's a candle in there. So this is my pitch for meditation. If you're going to light your candle, make sure there is something in there to light. Make sure there's something in there to light. And I'm just going to out and out say, in my opinion, really you're going to have to go and be silent for a little bit to get connected to the source, to make a little space to find your candle, to make sure that you have that to burn, you have that light to shine, to take some time. That's where you find it. That's the candle store, is when you take yourself off and connect to spirit and make sure there's something in there that you can light that will last for a whole service, Now, the next thing I want to talk about is that song, Spinning Wheels, because one of the things I do want to do is really make a note about how we spend time picking the songs. Some of them certainly are because they remind us of junior high, but most of them really, the real reason is we pick the songs because we want you to get inspired by them and think about them. And for me, when I think about the spinning wheels, it really reminds me of how easy it is for me to spin my mind, to get caught up in, to listen to the yammering. I know you are just like me, and you have the yammering voices in your head. And so the spinning wheels is to remind us to get out of the spinning and get to the big picture where everything looks better, where all the colors look good, and where the music flows, where we're looking at the earth from a little bit further so we see the beauty. And when we look at all of ourselves, our life, with a little bit of perspective, we see the beauty. We see the beauty. I have a confession, another confession. This is probably going to be a series of confessions today. Well, here's another one. The 12 powers, the teachings of Unity 12 powers, which is basically a way to look at how you can become Christ-like, how you can become the Buddha, how you can become the Holy One, how you can become your true self. And the 12 powers have these 12 attributes. And when I first read about them in Unity, when I first found Unity, it really bugged me because I thought they were so arbitrary. I'm like, well, what are these 12 powers? Where did they come from? So when I got to ministerial school, I did a bunch of research. I wanted to find out how Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, picked these powers, and I found out that it wasn't a brand new idea to him. There were other 12, of course, being the 12 apostles, is a popular number of attributes to pick for someone to aim for. And Charles, but the thing about Unity is Charles picked his 12 powers, and he hooked them up to Unity principles. So we look at them through our Unity lens, which is one power and one presence. Okay, one power, one presence, God the good, omnipotent. That's what we look through. Now, that part of me that has to know where things came from, it's common to many Unity people. It's like, don't just tell me something and I'm not just going to accept it. I need to know why. I need to connect to this truth. I need to connect to it on some level. I need to have some kind of historical background or some wisdom from it. And I want to connect to the meaning for my own self, and I want you, when you hear a truth or a teaching, I want you to connect to it and decide if it is helpful to you on your spiritual evolution. That's the whole point of this. How is it going to help us as individuals or us when we come together to become who we can become? I remember when I went to Egypt, I was thrilled to see in an Egyptian temple that had been buried under sand, the Unity wings. It just thrilled me to see the symbol of the Unity wings from that long ago. And I'm not so sure why, other than it was a connection of something that had spiritual meaning to me through the ages. And this rambling does have a point. The point of it is that it's a principle that, in fact, it's in Scripture that God made us in God's image. And I promise to look up the quote. This is one of those times where I'm doing one-liners of scriptures, but I'll look up the references and I'll put them online and give them to you if you want them. But God made us in God's image. Well, I'm here to tell you that yes, but in a way, we make ourselves in God's image, or we make God in our image. That's what the 12 powers are about. That's what the wings in all the way back in Egypt are about. That it is our human nature to seek God, and all we can do is put our humanness on God. We just can't help but limit God. It's not a bad thing, it's just how we connect. But we make a mistake when we get stuck in any picture that a human has made about God. I'm saying it's a mistake. I'm saying you're going to get stuck. If you think that any image of God that somebody made along the way is the one and only image of God, because it's just going to be too small. There's this super awesome movie that has Alanis Morissette playing God. And it's wonderful because at the first scene, God is some old man in a bowling alley or something. And the next scene, God is this beautiful Alanis Morissette. I think she is in a pink tutu or something. But the funny part of the movie to me, and it's very, I'd say it's a pretty metaphysical movie, is that when God speaks as God, it blows your head apart, like literally. Because the entirety of God is speaking is too big for an angel or a human to hear. So I like that little, that amuses me, that little thought about the vision of God as a woman, because we're creating God in our image. And in one moment, God is an old man in a bowling alley, and the next moment, God is a beautiful singer, and the next moment, God is, looks like a little baby. Doesn't God often look like a little baby to me? Does that sweetness, that beautifulness? And we create God, and as we create ourselves, and that's okay. That is just the spiritual evolution. It's what we do. And it is part of what we're doing with the 12 powers, and that's good too. At first, when I think about, if I think the 12 powers are something that Charles just made up, so what? He made it up with divine inspiration, with his light not under a bushel. He put enough candles in his candle holder for the day that he could light the top and it would work. He spent enough time going to headquarters, going to the silence, where there was something that would be created. And it was this beautiful outpicturing of aspects of God, or aspects of the Christ, or aspects of the Buddha that we could get a hold on. Because if you look at all of God, it's too big and it would explode our head. I don't know. I think that might be true. That if I really could take in the immensity of all that is, of the Creator, that something in me might explode. I'm willing to believe that. Just normal things can explode my head, So that the aspects of the 12 powers, let's have some fun with that. Let's have some fun with it, and let our humanness of creating God, of creating how we want to act as the perfect outpouring of love, let us have fun with it. The three of the 12 powers that I want to talk about today were power, understanding, and imagination. And I spent some time praying and meditating when I picked 3 powers for this week, next week, and next week. I wanted to put them together because I thought I wanted to see how we could use them together. Now, mind you, these are aspects of our Christ self. And I'm not so sure. Is the video going to work, yes or no? If it doesn't, okay. I had a little video that I'm just going to tell you about because it's one of those kind of electronic days. Ooh. I showed this video at least a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, about the man in either Brazil or the Philippines who used bottles of water just in a dark slum to bring in light. So there was this great video about a man taking water, taking a pop bottle, a plastic pop bottle, filling it with water, sealing it, putting a hole in the ceiling, and this letting in light to people who lived in a slum. And it was a huge thing. It made a huge difference. It's a beautiful video because you see the dark places where people are living with corrugated tin roofs, and just this simple thing, a pop bottle with water, sealed so the rain doesn't get in, stuck in, makes this huge difference in a room, like the light. It catches the sun and makes a light. And then the second, and I wanted to show you the video of like 3 years later where it has grown, where it's like not just one guy going around doing it, but people have given money to the project, and the video that we may see next week or some other time, or maybe you'll look it up, is this video of how this has grown. And I like this example because to me this was a beautiful example of using power, imagination, and understanding to be like the Christ and actually help your community so much. To me, the power is simple. In unity, we often say power, it's the power of the word, or the power of an idea. And I would believe that this person, when this started, he had understanding. He had an understanding of spiritual principles. He also had an understanding of what was needed. Here's an area of darkness. How are we going to light up these homes? How are we going to light this up in a way that's accessible and easy, understanding, and imagination? Whoever had the imagination to think about that this aspect of the Christ, take the imagination to fill the bottle with water and stick, notice it catches light, and to actually make this a little business of it and light up people's homes, in a real way. And so metaphysically, if you want to think about it, it's a beautiful example of, where in our lives do we have some darkness that we need to use some imagination, some understanding, and some power to bring light? Where in our minds, in the spinning wheels of our minds, where in our hearts, where deep inside us could we use a little light? Could we use somebody to come by with, one of our fellow people with some imagination, or our own imagination? And that's why we're in community together, because we don't have to only rely on our own imagination. We get to use our fellow people's imagination. We don't just need our own light. Isn't that awesome? We don't just need our own light. I don't just need to learn how to play the piano or the guitar. Somebody else will play it for me. Isn't that awesome? I don't have to do everything myself to create light. People think of ideas all the time. And people create wonderful connections using their imagination, their power, and their understanding. I, of course, have a lot more to say, but I am going to stop on time. But I wanted to read one beautiful quote. I'm reading this book. It's called Reinventing Organizations. If you're the kind of person that likes a big picture, and this is a very spiritual book about how we want to evolve spiritually, not just individually, but in our organizations. And that is what we do here at Unity. We want to evolve spiritually in our organization. And I saw this quote, and it kind of brought me to my knees. So I'm offering it to you. Now we have a chance to recreate community on new ground, where we listen each other into selfhood and wholeness. where we listen each other into selfhood and wholeness. That's like a poem to me, and it's a beautiful spiritual principle, of course. Because what can we do at any time to be the Christ? We can be in front of someone with our whole presence, and we can listen. We can stop and smile and just listen. Heaven on earth. Let's take an offering for unity.